Is Tuesday, March 24th at 6:30 PM. This is the special meeting of the East Bay Township Board and the Corridor Improvement Authority. We'll call the meeting of the Township Board to order.
We'll also call the meeting of the East Bay Township Beach District Corridor Improvement Authority to order.
All right, if everyone will join us, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good. To get started, we'll start with a roll call of the Township Board.
Thank you. Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
Here.
M. Corte.
Here.
S. Corte, I'm here. Friend.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
And
Mindy's excused.
Walters is excused.
Correct. Want to do the...
And we'll also ask for a roll call of the CIA Board.
Pinot,
Present.
Cargill,
Here.
Viola, Noka, Barcombe,
Here.
Bruning, Faringa,
Yes.
and Dome.
Okay, very good. We have an agenda in front of us, and the first thing we do is a review for a conflict of interest. Does anybody on the Township Board or the Corridor Improvement Authority have a conflict of interest to declare? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. We'll do two approvals for the agenda. We'll do one for the Township Board approving the agenda and also one for the Corridor Improvement Authority. So is there a motion from the Township Board to approve the agenda as presented? I will tell you, if you have the older packet, the one that was originally printed, remember there is a second business before the Township Board that is the utility turnover. Okay.
I make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Escortate and support by Cook. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Likewise, do we have a motion for Corridor Improvement Authority Board to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion and any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
All right, so we have an agenda. We'll move forward. First, we will open the meeting up for public comment. We have a first public comment. We also have one at the conclusion of the meeting. I don't see any public here, but if any board member or staff or anything wanted to speak or deliver public comment, they're welcome to. But seeing no public comment, I think we'll move on. I don't believe that we have any correspondence in our packets today, so we'll move straight forward to the board, to the business before us. And first, Claire, do you want to talk about what you have first on the agenda?
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's really nice we have a large group. We've had our Planning Commission and Township Board joint meetings, and it's a little smaller crew, so this is nice to have everyone here. We've got 3 agenda items. The first one is just introductions, because I know with our relatively new Corridor Improvement Authority, we haven't had the opportunity to meet all the board members, and for the board members to meet you. So wanted to just go around the room. We can start with Jason, and if you wanted to just introduce yourself, maybe share your connection to the corridor, or anything kind of related to the Beach District that you wanted to share. So.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. My name is Jason Barcombe, 11-year resident of East Bay on the corner of Avenue V and Indian Trail. I grew up in New England, been here 11 years. Just done a lot of wandering through the corridor over the last 11 years, and actually got to work on the Miracle Mile project. I work for Elmer, so there's a little bit of blood spread through that project. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to be a part of seeing that stretch of the world go through an evolution, and it's my home.
So I'm Sue Corte. I'm the clerk here at the township, 40-year resident of East Bay, 20 years as clerk.
Matt Cook, I'm on the Board of Trustees. I've lived in East Bay Township since 2020 and been on the board involved, I think, since about 2021.
I'm Alex Pinault. I've born and raised in northern Michigan. I grew up in Acme Township, but I became a resident of East Bay Township in 2022. Happy to be working on the board and, breathing some life into the corridor, hopefully.
Matt Corte, the Township Board, born and raised here, sixth generation. First elected in 1996, so I've been around a while. I guess I'm the old guy.
I'm Chris Cargill. I've been an East Bay Township resident for just over 10 years now. I've been living in the Traverse City area for a little longer than that. Lifetime Michigan resident, and I have just go through the corridor a lot. I live just outside the boundaries, and I'd love to see some new life breathed into the area and make things a little bit safer for residents and visitors to get around in the Beach District area.
I'm Beth Friend. I am the Township Supervisor. I've lived in East Bay Township my entire adult life. I'm an Air Force brat before that. And I'm excited to see us take off with the Beach District, what the county started a number of years ago, and remember the meetings with John Syke when he was the county planner and working on this corridor. And so it's exciting that it's created a new growth, new support for the project, and I think seeing all of the public engagement has been what's really exciting. So having heard about the project and the initiative for a long time, but really seeing the public become engaged through that process with the federal grants was very exciting.
I am Steve Farriga. I'm a member of the Grand Traverse Band and employee there. I started out in 1999 as in their planning and development department as a tribal architect. I've been there ever since. And also I'm a Acme Township Planning Commission member since 2008, so I'm very familiar with the area.
Glenn Lyle, resident of East Bay Township since '72. Member of the board for 21 years, 12 years as supervisor, and the remainder as trustee.
Tracy Bartlett. I'm the treasurer in East Bay, and I've been here at the township for 20, are we 20 or 21?
It'll be 20 in May.
20 in May. And I've been in East Bay Township for 40 years. So I've watched the corridor, because I lived right down in there, watched the corridor for all of that time, and I know we've gone through several iterations of trying to get this going, and I'm excited to see it finally moving, so.
I'm Rob Bruning. I was born and raised here in Traverse City. Grew up in Acme Township and now currently live in East Bay Township. I represent Cherry Tree, which is the start of the Corridor Improvement Authority, and it's really exciting. I traveled that corridor for many, many years as a passenger in my parents' car and then driving my own car, and there used to be a lot more to do in the corridor, and hopefully we can get some of that back.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think it's helpful just to get a little bit better understanding of who we have on both of those boards, and we have a wealth of experience from both boards. So moving along to the second item, we've got the review and discussion of the draft development and TIF plan. So I know the Township Board is fairly familiar with the process that we've gone through to date. The Corridor Improvement Authority Board was appointed in November, so we had our first organizational meeting on December 1st. The Corridor Improvement Authority Board has met 5 times since then, and so, adopted bylaws, elected the officers. The bulk of the time has been spent developing the development and TIF, tax increment financing plan, that you have in front of you this evening. And that TIF and development plan is really based on the Beach District sub-area plan that was adopted by the Planning Commission and Township Board last spring. So that was really our starting off point. All of the public engagement, all of the actions and priorities you'll see are also included in our development and TIF plan. So they really came out of that public engagement process that we went through. I will mention that in addition to the Corridor Improvement Authority Board that you see tonight, we also have our liaisons, and so that is a group that was appointed by the Township Board. It includes TART, Beta, MDOT, the Land Conservancy, Grand Traverse County, the Watershed Center, the DNR. And that's a group that meets quarterly, and so they also advise the Corridor Improvement Authority Board on any projects. So they have a lot of technical expertise on kind of how projects are done and can kind of help with those types of projects and the funding and the coordination. So they have met once. They're going to meet for the second time in April. And so we're making sure that both of those boards are coordinating and kind of feeding off one another. The Act 57 of 2018 really spells out what the content of the development plan. So if you go through that TIF and development plan, it's a little bit dry. It's got each one of those headings and it's got specific stuff. So that's really comes out of all of the elements that are required to be in that plan. So that's kind of the framework that we used. You'll see that it's really 2 segments. It's the development plan that goes through all of the projects and priorities, and then the second part is the TIF plan, and that's the revenue projections that you anticipate seeing from the different taxing jurisdictions over the life of the TIF, which is 20 years in our plan. So we, with the Corridor Improvement Authority Board and the liaisons, we worked with them to prioritize the projects. And so we spent a few different iterations of kind of figuring out how can we prioritize, making sure that we had all of the projects included. You'll see in this plan, and it's beginning on page 11, this is the project list, and that's the one that we wanted to spend some time on this evening. You'll see that we've identified priority and complexity for each project. So priority, if it's green, it's really high. If it's yellow, it's medium priority. In terms of complexity, we've got low, medium, and high. So low is green, medium is yellow, high is red. So if you're looking through this and you see, for example, green priority and green complexity, that means it's very high priority and relatively low-hanging fruit. So that's kind of how we are using this table to better identify what our priority projects are as we move through the plan. I will refer you to, and Sam printed these out and distributed them to each one of the board members. This is our adopted 2026 work plan for the Corridor Improvement Authority. So they adopted this at their board meeting last week. And so this is really kind of going through the projects that are listed in here and kind of identifying of, what do we think that we can get done over, in 2026, with the understanding that we're probably going to have limited revenue. So these projects that are listed in here are also projects that you find in the project and programs table. And our plan is to each year update our work plan so that we have kind of a list of the bullet points that we're working towards for the year. I will say that changes can be made to this draft plan, and so that's part of the purpose this evening, is to discuss, is there anything missing? Is there anything that needs to be reprioritized? Do you have any questions about what's listed in there? Until the board actually adopts this plan, we can make some modifications to it. So we thought that this was a really nice opportunity for the Township Board and the Corridor Improvement Authority Board to meet and discuss, just so we can make sure that there's a level of comfort with what's included in the draft plan. So I'm happy to go through any specific projects. I can go through the work plan, but I would turn it over to both chairs, or happy to answer any questions.
Unless do you have a suggestion on how to proceed?
I'm open to.
Okay.
continue.
I think we will have you kind of walk us through those, and then just take the opportunity to take a half a second and see if anyone has any questions on those specifically.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the 2026 work plan, because these are kind of the projects that we have identified for this year. So the first one is the development plan. That's well on its way. The next one is sidewalk maintenance, and that's really the one that rose to a very high priority from our Corridor Improvement Authority board members. We're looking for this year to hire a contractor who will maintain the sidewalks year-round and cover snow removal in the winter months. And so that's something we already have some potential funding sources available, or that we're pursuing, in addition to the TIF funds that could become available later this year. The next project is completing the sidewalk gaps on the Grand Traverse Band property, and this is a really nice, unique opportunity, because MDOT is going to be doing a preventative maintenance project along US 31 from Garfield all the way to 3 Mile Road. And so they've approached the township and said, within that boundary, are there any projects that you'd like to partner with us? So this is an opportunity for MDOT to be the applicant for the TAP, the Transportation Alternatives Grant application. We have had conversations with the tribe. They would be interested in building the sidewalk. It would basically extend from the state park property, which they're on the beach side. They're extending the sidewalk as a part of this summer's project, and it would extend all the way along the tribe property. We're looking at a pedestrian bridge over the creek, not over the road for this phase, but a small pedestrian bridge over the creek, as well as we talked with MDOT yesterday about the feasibility of a crossing on the western edge of the tribal property, which is about a 1/4 mile from the 3 Mile intersection. So that's something that we're beginning to explore, looking at securing some funding for the preliminary design engineering. We're looking at a 2% grant for that, and are hoping to move forward so that we can coordinate with the MDOT project in 2028. The 4 Mile Road end, as you are all aware, we did apply for a coastal management program feasibility and engineering grant, and so those will be announced in October. So that's a project where we're not going to probably make a lot of progress on that, but we're hoping to secure the funding for that within this year. And we're also hoping to work with the Grand Traverse County Road Commission for site control of the property. Beth and I were at the Road Commission meeting Thursday evening, presented the project. I'd say overall there was positive comments from the road commissioners, and so we will be looking at whether that would be like a permanent easement, or kind of how best to move forward with the township gaining site control of that road end. The next one, special events. We would like to identify one kind of smaller event that we can host this winter. The Corridor Improvement Authority Board did a little bit of brainstorming at the last meeting. Some different ideas would be, ice sculptures, a Christmas tree at the 4 Mile Road end, trick-or-treating event for Halloween. So something during the off-season, like whether that's winter or late fall, early spring, but just trying to bring more people down to the corridor. That's something we're exploring. We had a meeting with Traverse City Tourism, just kind of how to better promote that event. Quarterly breakfasts, we plan to continue those. We're looking at a May for our next date for the quarterly breakfast, but looking to continue to bring the business owners and residents and other corridor stakeholders together and provide updates and education and networking opportunities. And then the last one is some of our zoning. So we're planning to review signage standards as well as setbacks, trail connections, and other standards in our zoning ordinance to help us implement some of the beach district priorities through the public process. So those are our 2026 priorities. We had a few other 2026 priorities that kind of got bumped to 2027. One is completing the sidewalk gaps along 4 Mile Road. There's a strong desire to connect those neighborhoods and the TART Trail with the beach district in a safe way. The connection to Refit and the Ridge, those are both land conservancy properties where we would like to get a safe crossing across the railroad tracks to get people over to the TART Trail and eventually over to the beach district. And the stormwater ordinance is something that we are reviewing with Wade Trim and looking to integrate some of the priorities that were expressed through the public visioning process related to green infrastructure and stormwater management.
That's great, Claire. That's quite a bit on the plate for 2026, and I think a lot of those are very feasible. Some may, obviously bridge over into the next year. Does anyone have any questions on any of those items that are in the work plan for 2026 and those for possibly for 2027?
I wanted to just clarify on the TAP grant application mentioned in item 3 there. Is that also going to include a feasibility study of the crossing that you mentioned to the Grand Traverse Bay property?
Yeah, I think the TAP grant would just be for the construction, but prior to kind of finalizing that TAP grant, we would do some engineering feasibility. Yeah, good question.
Just a couple comments on some of these. As we start to look at sidewalk maintenance, obviously, we're talking different districts and different funding sources, but we'll also be exploring this in tandem with the township with Safe Routes to School and the eventual 3 Mile Trail, which will come in the following year to 2 to 3 after that. So that's one item of note. Another is that, again, I would echo what Claire said. I was heartened to hear some of the positive comments at the Road Commission regarding the beach district and that road end way. The other is I know that Claire would like to get some special events because she wants me to stop sending her pictures of ice sculptures and things from other communities when we're visiting them. So, Claire, if you could just touch base on some of the quarterly breakfasts, because I know we've had, some of the topics that they are focused on. I know we had one on emergency services to kind of let the businesses and the residents and those involved with the corridor to know what emergency services respond to calls there. But could you talk about some of the other breakfasts as well?
Yeah, so that topic, the emergency services, we had police, fire, and ambulance, I believe, come and present. We also had the DNR and MDOT give an update on their project that's coming in a few weeks, but kind of a little ways out, letting the public and the business owners know a little bit more about what their plans were. We had one quarterly breakfast where we had Venture North, MEDC, and the Michigan Small Business come and through Networks Northwest, or through Michigan Works, come and present just some different grant funding opportunities and business development support services. We had one where we had our nonprofit partners come and present. So we had TART Trails, the Land Conservancy, and who am I forgetting? The Watershed Center came and presented. So it's just been, and I think, so it's really nice to share the information, but the other benefit really has been the relationship building. I think a lot of the business owners they maybe know a few of the other business owners, but it's been a really nice opportunity, I think, for business owners and residents and the township to get to know the stakeholders along that corridor. I think it's built goodwill and been a positive experience, and we would like to continue it, potentially not quarterly, but at least a couple times a year.
Great. Well, again, any questions on the 2026 work plan, of course, but I'll also open it up to the projects that listed that are starting on page 11 that have been kind of scaled for priority and complexity. Any questions on those from any board members? And if not, then we'll move into some of the funding. So in light of that, Claire, I think what we'll do is we'll swing back to that first 2026 objective, which includes the TIF and the development plan, and talk a little bit about the revenue projections and the discussions that we've been having with the different taxing authorities.
Okay, so as you can see in this plan, we have many more projects with the cost than we have projected revenue. And so that's partially intentional. We anticipate that we're going to get significant grant funding. We're going to partner on some of these projects, so we're going to be able to leverage the TIF funding to have more of an impact beyond just that 6 million or so that is the projected revenue. But we have updated our revenue projections, and those are on the table. And those are based on the Grand Traverse County is in the process. They have a TIF policy that was adopted in 2012, and they are in the process of amending, reviewing and amending their TIF policy. So this would be a TIF policy that would be relevant to a DDA, a corridor improvement authority, a whole different host of TIFs that could be adopted under state acts. And so based on their draft ordinance, one change that we've made that you'll see is that we've taken out the special millages because based on the county's draft policy, they would not be including the special millages that were elected by that were approved by the voters for specific projects. So that's your road commission, your veterans, your seniors, conservation district, animal control. So we've removed all of those from our revenue.
One quick point of clarification. That's not only in their drafted policy, but that's in their existing 2012 policy. And our original projections did not have that because there hadn't been another DDA or CIA presented. So accordingly, we just collectively weren't aware of that policy until recently. So we're happy to update and comply with the existing policy.
Yep, exactly. So we've updated our revenue projections to remove all of those. We've also updated our revenue projections to increase the anticipated growth. So we were originally at 2.5% the first year, 2% after that. In reviewing our rate of growth over the last 5 years, our assessing department was helpful and was able to provide us with that information. We're looking at about a 9% rate of growth average for the last 5 years. Will that continue for the next 20 years? Likely not, but we did feel like the 2% was a little bit overly conservative, and that's why we've bumped it up to 4% rate of growth projection. We also have 2 scenarios in front of you, and these scenarios are kind of based on some discussions at the county board level. So there's kind of based on what Beth and I have heard at the meetings that we've attended, there's 2 different kind of policy directions that they've discussed. One is a 50-50 split of the revenue generation. And so that would mean that, say, the incremental increase in taxable value for all the parcels, say the county generated, $50,000 in year 1, $25,000 would go to the beach district, $25,000 would go back to county general fund. So it would be a 50-50 split with, we're looking at doing a 50-50 split with the county and also with NMC. We have heard from the Beta Board, there's a high level of support, and we have projects included in our plan that will directly benefit Beta. We've got bus stop improvements, we've got pads, shelters. So we do, we have heard that Beta is interested in participating at 100%. So that's the way that we've included in our scenario 1. You'll see that our revenue generation projection is at about 6.7 million, which is pretty consistent with our initial revenue projection with the 2% growth and kind of capturing all of the millages. So again, nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what the future rate of growth is going to be, but we do know that there's a number of parcels that can be redeveloped. We know that that growth is occurring in East Bay Township and in the larger Grand Traverse County, probably at a greater rate than elsewhere in the state of Michigan. So.
And this wasn't the only scenario that we looked at as well. In working with the consultant, they had suggested something on a graduated basis where, for example, we might collect 100% for the first 5 years, then 75% for the next years, then 50, then 25, something like that. So we ramp down and the county ramps up. In general, though, the funding was very similar in the outcome, and the 50% just makes it very easy for treasurers, you'll appreciate that, and equalization and assessing to do their work with the TIF district over that extended period of time.
Yeah. So the second scenario that we're looking at, and this is a possibility that the county is looking at, is that they would provide an equal share of revenue generation equivalent, but not more than what the township is providing. So this scenario is assuming, East Bay Township with our millage rate of 0.67, we generate, over the course of the 20 years, the township would contribute, a little over 1 million. That would be assuming that the county would also contribute that same amount. So as you know, the county's operating millage is over 4 mills, whereas the township's operating millage is quite a bit less at the 0.67. But this scenario would be equal contribution from the county and from NMC, equivalent to what East Bay Township is contributing. So you'll see that with that scenario, our revenue generation projections decrease down to about $3.8 million. So just wanted to share that because we're still waiting to better understand what the direction that the county board decides.
And one of the things that we are emphasizing to the county board is you can see kind of illustrated at the bottom end of these two tables. So where they're looking for the second scenario where it has equal amount of money, right? So $1 million coming from each of those taxing jurisdictions roughly. It really is not proportional to the taxes they collect. While that sounds equal, it is not, because you can see the percent of the tax capture, they're, this 27%, yet they're 59% of the taxes collected. So there's a disparity there. While the word equal makes it sound like it's equal, there's a scale here that we need to recognize. And we think the 50-50 split does that a little bit better. As you can see from the bottom of that table, you're looking at more when we do that the collection from the county is at almost 52%, and the percent of their taxes that are collected are about 59%, much closer proportionally to what it should be. And the same is indicated through NMC. The reason that we're putting NMC at the same level that the county is because these processes, take place as they should in the public, and as boards here, one taxing jurisdiction is participating at a certain level, the other one is very similarly likely going to want the very same level. Beta, I think, is a distinction to itself and has a lot to do with the participation that they'll have in that corridor and the benefit that they'll see for their mission as well.
Question.
Sure.
The county, NMC, before this is adopted, they would have to vote by their board, so it's, township doesn't vote and pass it, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we're not gonna do it.
So oh, go ahead.
So I guess what the question is, they would vote to approve what they're gonna give before we finalize it. Is that correct or no?
So we're working on a tight timeline with the county, and they are looking at updating their policy. And then their policy has, and this is not unusual in some policies, that is an automatic opt-out. Because as you know, once we have the public hearing, which we did in March, they have 60 days, the taxing authorities, to opt in, or not opt in, they just don't do anything. They have 60 days to opt out. So what their policy is looking at doing is opting out and then doing a development agreement with the township that is a revenue sharing, essentially an opt-in.
So they would opt out. What would pressure them to sign an agreement?
So they could, the way that's one way they could do the policy. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Claire, but I think also if they have their policy done, tied up neat with a bow in time, they don't have to opt out. They can just opt into it. So if their policy says, look, we're not going to capture specially extra voted millages, and we're going to do a 50% share on the county operating millage, then they would just not do anything with ours, and they would be opted in under that policy, or they would notify the state of that policy at what level. So that's part of the legalities and specifics that we've got our attorneys working on and their attorneys are looking at as well. But we do have some deadlines coming up. I think it's in mid-August. They will be looking at some draft policy guidelines, so taking that 2012 policy. And they've been looking at some counties from downstate. And did I say the wrong month?
Yeah, just mid-April.
Oh, mid-April, I'm sorry.
August is a long ways away.
Oh, mid-April. I've had August on my mind a lot lately. Anyway, so they'll be updating their policy mid-April, and they've been using their 2012 policy as a basis, logically, and then taking a look at some other counties that have established TIF districts as well. Additional thoughts, questions, comments on the funding?
Not to be negative here, but this scenario two, at least what's projected here is the tax capture on the far right. You're not doing much for 5 years. You're probably not doing much for the first 10. I mean, even at that funding level, are you going to be able to overcome just base administrative costs?
I think our administrative costs are very low because our internal staff, we're staffing that. So I do think that we can make some good progress, just kind of the way that that we're currently doing it with grant writing and leveraging our partnerships. So yes, it would be great to have more revenue as opposed to less. But I think that we can still continue to set ourselves up for some significant projects. I mean, the township board has the option to bond and to enter into other agreements. But you're right, there's not a lot of revenue generation.
Right.
I think what Claire's saying, if I might, is it's better than a sharp stick in the eye.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
So do we then, and I don't know if this is possible, do we then extend the TIF now for more than 20 years?
Well, we haven't broached that subject because we've had good conversations with elected and appointed officials and their administration, but that is yet to be seen.
Yeah, just because I know we can, or at least I think, we can re-up the TIF at, when we get close to the 20-year mark, but go through all that again, when we could start with a 30-year or, I don't know what the max is.
Yeah, so I think right now, the way that we've drafted this and the feedback that we've received from the taxing jurisdictions is that, they're looking to have some guardrails in place. And so that's part of the plan that we've developed, is to be responsive to that. And so the way that it's drafted right now is that it would be 20 years, ends after 20 years, and would need to go through the same process that we're going through today to create a new TIF plan.
So that, I'm sorry. So we can't go 30 years? Is
We
there
would need to,
legislation that-
we can go 30 years. This is kind of a policy
Right.
recommendation from staff, is to go with the 20 years, just to have it be a little bit smaller in scope. But it's certainly, certainly open for input from.
We haven't heard much support from that from the fellow taxing jurisdictions.
Well, I think the downtown got kind of scared anyway.
We have had to do a lot of explaining on how this is different than the DDA, and this is different than the DDA. The other thing is, there are some clauses in the proposed policy that don't fit particularly well with the Beach District. One example would be their proposed, I think it was proposed and not in the current policy. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. And I think this was taken out of another counties, is like none of the funding would go towards any purchase of, like, say, right-of-way or a property or anything like that. Now, the Beach District's intention, you've seen the plans, you've seen the projects. This is not a property acquisition, plan. It's just not. However, we are talking beta stops, and when you start to look at if we're able to notch out any pullouts, or if we're able to put any pads on there, does that mean easements or right-of-way? Crossings.
Bridges.
Exactly.
Require right-of-way.
So what we're asking them to do is, okay, if you feel strongly about, none of the funding going to purchases, let's put in the writing that funding can only go towards, say, incidental right-of-way or purchases, or we do something where if there is a land purchase or right-of-way purchase, things like that may go back to the not only come through the Corridor Improvement Authority and have the Township Board approve it, but also get kicked back to the county under a clause that they would also concur with that as well. You're trying to bring everybody together on something they can agree with.
Can you explain a little bit more about the growth projections? You said y'all went back and met with assessing, and they give you a better idea. Is that where this 4% comes from? Is that 4% is not, it's not revenue capture increase,
Yeah,
it's taxable value, right?
The 4% is taxable value, so that the reason that it would be, potentially higher than just inflation is due to developments and like uncapping. So if a property
Okay.
is sold and changes hands.
Okay.
The reason it's obviously lower than the 9% we've seen in the, was it 3 to 5 years or 2 to 4 years? I can't remember the span.
Yeah.
The reason it's lower than that is because we're talking a span of 20 years, and that's long enough to capture a down cycle.
Sure.
Other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I guess just sitting here thinking that for 20 years, we would be giving up any increase in township tax, correct? That any new tax that came in from your taxes going up, that percentage, all of that would be lost to the township.
It's the inflation and the new growth which includes uncappings, as Claire mentioned, within that district, would have to be spent in that district.
Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to understand is when we give up that amount, and then you get pilot programs that we give up tax on, are we gonna have to raise the taxes to the residents to be able to keep operating? Because we're giving quite a bit away. I mean, that rate here is little, I understand that. But when we got at least, I think, 2 big hotels going in, and they will, my understanding, if they go in, you're going from vacant property to, and I don't know, $25 million what it costs for a big hotel. So all of that tax is gonna go to the TIF, correct?
Yes, any incremental increase. So we keep the baseline, but any
Right.
increase.
And we would keep the tax that the vacant property was producing. Okay,
So-
that's my concern. is
Sure, so.
What we would be giving up between pilot and increased development plus increase in taxes annually.
Yeah.
Is that going to affect our ability for the rest of the residents of East Bay Township?
So when you take a look at this, first of all, this doesn't affect any of our revenue projections that right now that we budget on. This doesn't, because this is not, we don't capture that potential growth. We do an overall growth holistically across the township wide. So it includes rural areas, all areas of the township. So we don't necessarily have that specific amount. The other thing is this is directed to the corridor. So the township is still benefiting from these tax dollars. And then the East Bay Township is still benefiting from those being spent within the corridor. And then particularly when you look at a lot of the projects which benefit residents and guests and the community as a whole, which is one of the reasons that we feel validated in the TIF district and having the county partner with us and NMC and Beta partner with us, because it benefits the region as a whole, as well as East Bay Township. The other thing is we fortunately fund our emergency services, which are critical to us and are affected by growth and additional hotels. We fund those with the special assessment district. Those are not captured under the TIFs, the brown, they're not captured under the brownfields, and they're not captured under the TIFs. So the bulk of the services that we provide that are directly, linearly related to the population are still retained and have those emergency services available at the level needed.
Can I just add one additional thing? Good summary. We've also seen with TIFs across the state of Michigan, even Traverse City is a good example, that when you're investing in a specific district, you see increase in taxable value outside of that district. And so while we, the township, will see that incremental increase in taxable value for the district at the end of the 20-year period, it ends and all of that increase in value comes back to the township. Before that 20 years, we anticipate seeing that increase in taxable value in the surrounding area. Specifically, a lot of the land along the beach district is zoned for workforce housing. It's high demand. We've updated our zoning ordinance to allow the missing middle housing. We allow up to 5 units per acre in that district. And so we do anticipate that we're going to see a lot more development coming in along the beach district corridor. And we anticipate that by making investments in the beach district, it's going to be, walkable community, amenities, the beach, restaurants, that people are going to want to live there. And so we're going to see more investment and more growth and more increase in taxable revenue in that district, the areas outside of the district.
But outside of the district, then, we don't recapture the township tax? Because outside the district, let's say you got an 8-acre parcel, they turned into a subdivision after the district is agreed upon the tip. So right now, they're paying tax on dirt. So then they put in 80 acres of houses. We don't recapture any of that. We recapture what the value of the dirt was. Is that correct?
Outside of the district?
Outside.
We capture the increase in taxable value.
It's only within the
Yeah,
district.
it's only within the district. Only within the district.
Okay.
Any additional other questions? Okay, with that, I think we do have the resolutions in here, so I don't think you're looking for an action. We've passed resolutions to obviously establish the authority, as well as establish the Beach District Corridor Authority. I think we have all the resolutions we need at this time.
Yep, we have, all of the action. I think the last resolution was the one setting the public hearing in February. And so no action is, we're not looking for any action tonight. I think if there's any areas of the plan as you're going through it where you see even a simple typo, but if you see areas that are of concern, please reach out to staff, because that's helpful for us to address that or bring it back to the Corridor Improvement Authority Board prior to coming to the Township Board for adoption.
Yeah, a good example is, you'll obviously see in this plan, the 2% and the 2.5% mentioned. That'll be getting updated for the 4%. All right, with that, Claire and I will continue working with the county and seeing what their impending policy, how that affects the Corridor Improvement Authority, and also working with NMC, and we'll communicate any of the results of that to you. Yeah, and then we'll move on. Yep, Matt, did you have a question?
One silly question. We have gubernatorial candidates that are running on the platform of eliminating property taxes. If that happens, what happens here?
I think we have bigger problems than the Corridor Improvement Authority if that happens.
A lot of states don't have property taxes, and so I don't know what your comment about that is.
But they have other funding sources.
So does Michigan. So my only question is does this dissolve itself? Is it no longer?
Yeah, so I think that we wouldn't have the TIF revenue. We would still have the Corridor Improvement Authority. We'd still
Okay.
seek, funding for other projects.
It would be like a Parks Commission with no budget.
Yeah, well, I get that.
Yeah. Okay, if the Corridor Improvement Authority would just give us a half a second, we have one other item on our agenda. And first, I do want to thank Claire and Sam and staff and on the work on this, and most certainly the Corridor Improvement Authority. Really happy that you're involved with this, and thankful for your participation. We will move to the next item, which is the Live East Bay Phase 2, which is the final sanitary and water acceptance. You do have a letter in front of you from Wade Trim, and so we would be seeking to approve that turnover. And if there are any questions, comments, or a motion.
I had one question. You mentioned in the note that you sent yesterday along with this letter that timing on behalf of the developer, what's the timing critical
They
here?
just, they need to, they can't have anybody move in or do any rent before then, and they didn't want to wait another
Okay.
Couple weeks. And our April meeting is on the late side this month.
Okay.
So that was just a little bit much for them instead of it being like April, 6th or 7th or
Sure.
whatever it would be.
Okay.
Is there another question or motion?
No, I don't have the letter in front of me, sorry.
If you just want to reference it, that would be fine.
Yeah, Make a motion that we accept the turnover.
Live East Bay Phase 2.
East Bay 2.
Do you, oh, okay. Motion by Bartlett and support by Escortade. Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. And with that, we do come to the second opportunity for public comment. We haven't had anyone else join the meeting, so public comment is welcome to happen, but I don't see anybody taking us up on it. Our next meeting dates are April 13th. Again, that's a little bit later than we usually are, same second Monday, though. And the Corridor Improvement Authority, the next one is April 16th at 9 a.m. So, and that is a couple days after the county board meeting, so we should have some more information for the Corridor Improvement Authority at that time. Okay, well, if there's no objection, then we stand adjourned. Thank you for everyone for joining us.